You ever stare into the abyss? I mean, really look into the darkness and wonder what's staring back. We all have our demons, those nagging thoughts that keep us up at night, the ones that make you question everything, your relationships, your purpose, your sanity. Well, I'm here to tell you you're not alone. This is Man of Thoughts, a place where we explore the dark underbelly of relationships, the things nobody wants to talk about. We're going to shine a light on the behaviors that are slowly poisoning your love life, turning something beautiful into a toxic wasteland. Buckle up, because it's going to get uncomfortable. But trust me, sometimes you need to confront the darkness to find the light. Let's talk about John and Mary, a lovely couple, at least on the surface. They seemed perfect together, always smiling and holding hands, the picture of happiness. They met at a grocery store, both reaching for the last avocado. It was a moment straight out of a romantic comedy. Fate, right? Wrong. It was the beginning of the end. That avocado was the first of many small things that would come between them. You see, Mary had this knack for, let's call it constructive criticism. She always had something to say, a little piece of advice, a suggestion. John couldn't boil water without Mary pointing out his flawed technique. Every meal became a lesson. Every dish a test he was bound to fail. "Honey, you're stirring it wrong," she'd say, her voice dripping with faux sweetness. It wasn't just cooking, it was everything. At first, John brushed it off. He thought he could handle it, that it was just her way of showing she cared. But slowly, that criticism chipped away at him like a woodpecker with a PhD in passive aggression. His self-esteem gone. His sense of self-worth eroded, his confidence buried under a mountain of Mary's helpful suggestions. One day, John snapped. He couldn't take it anymore. He looked at Mary, his eyes filled with a quiet rage, and said, "You know what, Mary? You're right. I am stirring it wrong. I'm doing everything wrong. In fact, I'm doing everything wrong. I'm wrong for you. Wrong for this world. Just plain wrong." His voice was a mix of anger and resignation. "I'm wrong for you. Wrong for this world. Just plain wrong." And with that, he walked out, leaving Mary standing in the kitchen surrounded by perfectly arranged throw pillows and the faint scent of her own disapproval. And with that, he walked out, leaving Mary standing in the kitchen surrounded by perfectly arranged throw pillows and the faint scent of her own disapproval. She was left alone in a house that suddenly felt too big and too empty. The avocado untouched on the counter seemed to mock her with its silent judgment. It was a reminder of what they once had and what they had lost. Contempt, my friends, is a whole other beast. It's a silent killer creeping into relationships and eroding the very foundation of love and respect. It's not just criticism, it's disgust. It's a deep-seated feeling that your partner is beneath you, unworthy of your respect. It's looking at your partner and seeing something you'd rather scrape off your shoe. It's a visceral reaction, almost instinctual, that can't be easily hidden or ignored. Take, for example, Bob and Susan. They were the epitome of young love, high school sweethearts who seemed destined for a fairy tale ending. They were high school sweethearts, the kind of couple that made everyone else sick with envy. Their love was the stuff of legends, or so it seemed. But behind closed doors, a storm was brewing. The perfect facade was just that, a facade. Susan, you see, had a way of looking at Bob that could curdle milk. Her disdain was palpable, a constant undercurrent in their interactions. A raised eyebrow here, a sarcastic snort there, and Bob felt about 2 inches tall. It was as if every gesture, every look, was designed to belittle him. Every word she uttered dripped with disdain, like she was addressing a particularly dim-witted houseplant. Her tone was always condescending, always dismissive. One evening, Bob was trying to tell Susan about his day. He was excited about a promotion at work, a milestone he had worked hard to achieve. But before he could finish the story, Susan let out a sigh that could have wilted a sunflower. It was a sigh filled with impatience and disinterest. "Oh, Bob," she said, her voice laced with boredom, "that's nice." Her words were like a cold splash of water dousing his enthusiasm. "Now, did you remember to pick up my dry cleaning?" Her priorities were clear, and Bob's achievements were not one of them. That was it. Bob had enough. He realized he couldn't continue living in a relationship where he was constantly belittled and disrespected. He realized he was living with a woman who looked at him with more affection than she reserved for a moldy loaf of bread. The realization hit him hard, but it was also liberating. He packed his bags, walked out the door, and never looked back. It was a decision that took immense courage, but it was necessary for his own well-being. The last thing he saw was Susan filing her nails, completely oblivious to his departure. Her indifference was the final nail in the coffin of their relationship. We've all been there, haven't we? Those moments when someone points out a flaw, and we immediately go into defense mode. It's human nature, right? Someone points out a flaw, and we immediately go into defense mode. It's human nature, right? We feel attacked. And our instinct is to protect ourselves, to shield our vulnerabilities. But in a relationship, defensiveness is like building a wall, brick by painful brick. Each defensive reaction adds another layer, making it harder to connect, to communicate, to understand each other. Let me tell you about Tom and Lisa. They were the picture-perfect couple, always smiling, always holding hands. To the outside world, they seemed like they had it all. They were the picture-perfect couple, always smiling, always holding hands. Their friends envied their seemingly perfect relationship, their laughter, their shared moments of joy. But their perfect facade hid a dark secret. They couldn't have an honest conversation to save their lives. Beneath the surface, there was a growing chasm, a void filled with unspoken words and unresolved issues. Every time Lisa tried to bring up a problem, Tom would turn into a human pretzel, twisting himself into knots to avoid taking any responsibility. He would deflect, deny and dodge anything to avoid facing the issue head-on. "It's not me, it's you," became his mantra. He couldn't see that his defensiveness was driving a wedge between them, brick by brick, building a wall that was becoming insurmountable. One day, Lisa found a receipt for a diamond necklace in Tom's pocket. It was a moment that could have been a turning point, a chance for honesty and openness. Now, Lisa wasn't one to jump to conclusions, but she wasn't born yesterday either. She knew something was off, and she needed answers. When she confronted Tom, he immediately went on the defensive. His reaction was swift and predictable, a knee-jerk response to protect himself. "Don't you trust me? It's not what you think," he exclaimed, his voice rising in panic. His defensiveness only fueled her suspicions, making the wall between them even higher. Lisa looked at him, her heart sinking. She realized that the wall Tom had built was now impenetrable, a fortress of denial and deflection. It was a barrier that no amount of love or patience could break through. She realized that the wall Tom had built was now impenetrable, a fortress of denial and deflection. It was a barrier that no amount of love or patience could break through. The fortress stood tall, a testament to their failed communication. She knew then that their relationship was over, buried under a mountain of unspoken truths and carefully constructed defenses. The love they once shared was now lost, hidden behind the walls they had built, brick by brick. Stonewalling, the silent treatment's more sophisticated cousin. It's the ultimate form of emotional shutdown, where one partner checks out, leaving the other one talking to a brick wall. Imagine this, David and Sarah, a couple on the verge of implosion. They're having an argument, as couples do, but David has mastered the art of stonewalling. He sits there, arms crossed, face impassive, like a statue carved from pure indifference. Sarah tries everything to get through to him. She pleads, she yells, she cries, but David remains unmoved. It's like talking to a void, a black hole of emotional unavailability. Finally, Sarah gives up. She realizes that she's pouring her heart out to someone who's already emotionally checked out. The silence becomes deafening, a testament to the chasm that has grown between them. Stonewalling is the kiss of death in a relationship. It's a slow, agonizing death, where one partner suffocates from lack of connection, while the other remains blissfully or perhaps tragically unaware. Look, relationships are tough. We all bring our own baggage, our own insecurities to the table. But these four horsemen, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, they're relationship killers. They'll suck the life out of your love life faster than you can say counseling. So, what's the solution? Well, that's a whole other video, folks. But let me tell you this, it takes work, commitment, and a willingness to look in the mirror and face your own demons. Are you up for the challenge? Or are you going to let these toxic behaviors destroy your relationship from the inside out? The choice, as always, is yours.